So, just another quick video about a question I got about streaming while you're at a gig. So people are discussing what you need to do that, what kind of hardware, do you use a booth output, do you do it on a secondary laptop, what kind of audio configuration do you need, and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, no, just keep it simple. Just set up your gear exactly like you would do to play the gig, and then click broadcast. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of advantages. You don't really need to do anything, because this setup that I have right here is exactly like it would be in a club, or exactly like it would be if I was doing a mobile gig. So it's basically a controller that's hooked up to virtual DJ, and so it's just USB and master out and headphones out. And of course, then when I play, I get the audio like Google Track. So this little monitor over here, studio monitor, is right now supposed to be my master output, and of course the headphones down here are supposed to be my cue. So that's exactly like it would be at a gig, except the speakers would be a whole lot bigger at the gig or at the club or whatever. So that's a total standard setup. So if I look into the audio config, I simply have VDJ8.5 and master and headphones. So totally standard, and that's what I would go with to broadcast. Because then all you need to do is actually just to enable your video output. So I already set that up a little bit, so I get a video skin down at the bottom, so I can it broadcasts which track I'm playing, like this. And it has a shader as the main part of the screen, and that can change, and I can change to the music, whatever shader you really want to use, and you can set it to change. I've already done tons of videos about that, so I don't want to do that here, but I can link a couple of videos in the video description. And then of course, if you want to, you can put the camera on top. So now I'm on top here. But you may not want to do that at a gig, because do you really know what you're sending out there? Do you really have the rights to put out people out on your Twitch account? So maybe you don't want to have a camera. So maybe just something simple like this. And then that's actually just ready to go. So of course, then I just go into my master pane, and then I've already set up my broadcast setup. And then I just click broadcast like that. And then it started broadcasting. So if I then click play, and I go over to my secondary monitor here, just for fun, because that's just my Twitch account, so I can actually see it happening eventually. Takes a few seconds sometimes. There you go. Then I'm actually now broadcasting to Twitch. And all I did, except setting it up the first time, was click the broadcast button. So what I am now is I'm actually at the gig, I'm actually playing to people, and I'm actually broadcasting all of it, including video. So of course, if this was video files, I would be broadcasting the music videos. Right now it's just shaders, but it could be anything. And you don't have to have that. You can just drag it away, it'll still work. So you just have your regular old virtual DJ in your regular old setup with the master and headphones, and you're still broadcasting everything to Twitch. So there's no secondary hardware, there's no secondary laptop, there's no secondary outputs, there's nothing. It's just a totally regular setup, and then one click of the broadcast button and you're ready to go. So then there's a couple of questions. What about if you're using a mic? Well, if I was to use a mic on this VDJ8.5, it wouldn't send that to Twitch, because that goes straight to master on this particular controller, which it actually does on most controllers. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because do you really want whatever you're telling the room that you're DJing, do you really want to send that to Twitch as well? Maybe you don't want to. If you do want to, you need an input, just like when you are regularly broadcasting. You need an input that actually goes into the laptop, and you need to set it up in the audio config, and then that goes out to the broadcast as well. So that's the same thing basically. So you can do it if you want to, but it may be a good idea not to do that. And then finally, people are saying, well, what about all the other stuff Twitch can do when you go in there, you have your listeners, and you can interact with them, and you can use something like stream elements, and you can do lots of crazy extra graphics and stuff like that. And you can interact with people. Well, that's all good and fine if you're doing a regular broadcaster, but here you're actually doing, like over here, but actually here you're actually doing a gig. So you're not doing a regular setup. You're doing a specific setup for the gig you're doing that you just happen to be broadcasting. So don't think you have the time to interact with your audience over here. You don't have time to monitor strange incoming bits and donations and stuff like that. So don't set all of that up. That's for other times. That's for when you're actually DJing for Twitch, not when you're DJing for a gig that you just also happens to be broadcasting. So don't think you need all that stuff, because for that stuff you may want OBS, stream elements, stuff like that. But I don't think that's the case for most situations where you are actually at a gig and also want to be streaming. So for that purpose, I would say the broadcasting feature inside Virtual DJ is your best and simplest bet, and it simply kind of can't fail.